Hi, I'm Ben Kessler, and I played the part of the MP officer. Uh, I took this class because in high school I loved being in the theater club, and I had a blast doing it. And at a tech school, it's kind of tough to find your outlet for acting. And luckily, I needed a humanities class anyway, and so I saw this on a bulletin board, and I thought, man, this is perfect. And so yeah, that's how I ended up in this class. Initially, I was skeptical, definitely, but I am glad that I took it in the end because I got to act, which I was bummed about in the beginning because initially, we weren't supposed to be in the show, and I was like, oh, that kind of sucks, but I got the chance to do it, and it was a smaller role, so it wasn't too much of a time commitment. It wasn't too hard to do, so yeah, I'm really glad that I ended up doing it. Oh, my favorite scene, I'd have to say, was not the one I was in, but when the character of Ben was saying his last speech, his last words that he wrote in the letter to his family. I really thought that was a beautiful scene. This one was different because of the time constraint and the lack of rehearsals that we had, just because our deadline moved up. So that was a lot different with the other shows. We had a lot more preparation time. So this one was a little more fast-paced, and I definitely had more of a hands-on approach to this show because I was in the PR group towards the end. So there was a lot more going on. It wasn't just the acting. So that's how this one was different from the other ones. So what I learned about myself as an actor was that there's a lot more to your character than you'd think. Like, because I was in the dramaturgy group, we did a lot of research and background. We found a lot of background information about the show and the different characters, and knowing all of that really, really helped me as my character, as the officer, because you just know so much more background information, and that kind of shows through in your character when you bring them onto stage. Initially, I thought, this is kind of a weird character for me to be playing, but in the end, I really thought it was neat that, me, I'm an American citizen. I didn't come from another country, and a lot of the other actors actually were. Pablo he's Spanish. He's from Spain, so he kind of had that foreign. He brought the foreign aspect to his character, and I didn't have that, and that kind of fit as me being the officer because he was an American soldier, and so I kind of felt connected to him because we kind of had that arrogance to us, or not arrogance, but we just didn't know. We didn't have that knowledge. I felt this connection when I was on stage with the family as a whole, because I'm supposed to be this bad guy in the beginning, and they see me as this bad guy, but I'm just doing my job as my character. I'm just doing my job. So he's just going through the motions. He's bringing these people in, and you can tell he kind of sees that this probably isn't right. They're displacing all these families, but so he's a nice guy, and he probably doesn't want to be doing this, but because it's his job, he has to. So, I felt bad for the characters as I was saying these things and threatening them with guns and everything. So that's kind of the connection I had with them. Unfortunately, I didn't have the pleasure of really connecting with them off stage because I just didn't see them all that often. The ones I did talk to, Pablo, he was great. Yeah, unfortunately, the lack of rehearsals, kind of cut into that. So I would have loved to get to know them a little better, but I didn't really know them too well. To be honest, I didn't know a thing about the Japanese internment because they don't talk about that in high school. They don't talk about that ever when they're teaching history, or if they do, they didn't in my classes. So I kind of jumped into this not knowing a thing. So all the information we found was all new to me, and I really thought it was really, really interesting. My opinion about the internment camps is that the country was scared, the U.S. was scared, and they did what they felt they had to do with, very little time to think about it. They had to make a decision. And now that we look back, we can definitely see that what they did was wrong. But at the time, it was what they thought was right and what was good for the entire country. I'd have to say I'm more sympathetic to Ben's side. His country did betray him, and he acknowledged that. But he also knew that he needed to forgive this country because he did love the country still, and he gave his life to the country because he knew this was the place for him and his family. It was a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. I thought having to act and put together this play would have been crazy stressful and a ton of work, and just more than I should have or would have had to normally stress about. But, it actually helped because I missed being on stage from high school. This is my first time kind of doing that since then. It's been almost 2 years, so brought a lot of nostalgia back from old shows that I've done, so it was a lot of fun. So I did feel rushed when we were putting together this play. We had a lot less time than we thought we did, and we just had to learn to roll with the punches. I mean, we had less time, we had a lot of issues with getting a space to actually perform. So it was tough, but we did it, and we put on this show, and I think it's definitely something we're proud of. If I could change one thing about my performance in particular, would be to have completely memorized all of my lines for the show. I kind of half memorized them, and so I still had to have the script up there and kind of read it as jump points for when I needed some help. I think I would have been able to do a lot more if I had all the lines memorized. So I think that would have really helped me. My favorite part about being in the play was holding a gun. Just kidding. That's not what I really want. My favorite part about being in the play was actually was having to have this really neat costume, because most of the other characters were wearing regular street clothes. Some were, had skirts, which they didn't necessarily wear all the time, but they were pretty normal, and I actually got to wear some really cool army fatigues and had a rifle and a cool hat. It was really cool.
How did the light guy do?
Light guy, he could have been better.
What about your professors?
No comment.